Hi there, welcome to Life Changing Learning's video on how to write clear and convincing arguments, also known as thesis statements. In this video, we're going to look at what is a thesis statement, what are the things that you need to know to write clear and convincing arguments, and how the 3 C's of thesis writing will help make essay writing easier. So why does essay writing feel so difficult? Well, this is very normal, because when you begin studying, all the new words and concepts that you need to learn can make the writing process seem like it is too hard. Words like analyze, assess, and evaluate are bad enough, but then your teacher throws in words like thesis statement and your mind becomes fuzzy and feels like nothing's going in. I know, I've been there and it feels horrible. And what is worse, just when you think you're getting your head around all the new words and you think you have a pretty good argument, your teacher says that your argument is not clear or what you have written is not going to convince anyone. Does any of this sound familiar? Regardless of whether you can identify with this scenario or not, writing a convincing argument is hugely challenging at the beginning because we think it has to be more complicated than it is. I mean, after all, it is called a thesis statement for a reason, isn't it? But it really isn't as complicated as it sounds. So let's look at what a thesis statement really is. In everyday speak, a thesis statement is your main argument. It's the heart of your essay. It is the statement that you're going to prove with evidence, therefore becoming the guiding focus, the heart of your entire essay. As you can see in this infographic, the thesis statement is in the middle of the paragraph, and it guides the reader about what the writer is going to argue. Therefore, it is the writer's stance on the issue. It is only one sentence and is written as a statement, not a question. If this paragraph was put into an essay, it would be known as the introduction of the essay. It is an introductory paragraph on the topic of whether essay writing is important for people in non-academic professions, such as nursing or graphic design, where they won't be required to write essays as part of their job role. The writer in this paragraph is going to argue that both theory, writing essays, and practice, the practical elements of the job, is important for success in the job world, and this means that he or she will argue how essay writing has important benefits for people in all job roles. And of this, I would agree, of course, for I wrote this essay or this introduction for the primary purpose of this video. How to write good thesis statements. So let's say you're asked to write an essay on the following question. To what extent is aggressive behaviour the result of nature or nurture? In response to this question, you have a few options. You can argue that aggressive behaviour is mostly influenced by nature, our genes, or nurture, our upbringing. Or you can argue that it is a combination of both. What response you choose will determine the direction of your essay. So let's say, for argument's sake, that you choose to prove that aggressive behaviour is influenced by nurture and not nature. The first thing you'll need to do is respond to the question by stating your opinion. You could do this by simply rewording the question into an answer, such as, aggressive behaviour is a product of nurture. This thesis statement is a rewording of the question into an argument, as the statement makes an assertion that will need to be proved. However, it could be written in a way that does not sound just like a rewording of the question. Indeed, it should sound like a deeply considered response, meaning you really thought about it, such as, an analysis of identical twins' behaviour reveals that aggressive behavioural traits are the product of an individual's upbringing rather than their genetic heritage. In this example, the writer has provided a response that sounds like they have researched the data available, i.e. the twin studies, and come to an informed position on the topic. For example, the twin studies reveal the significance of upbringing on behaviour. Now, you're probably thinking, what about essay questions that are not singular? What happens when a lecturer asks multiple questions? This is very common and can cause students frustration because they are not sure where to focus. Many of my students will bring me assignments that include multiple questions, and they are not sure which one to answer and how to answer them all. For example, let's say that the question, to what extent is aggressive behaviour the result of nature or nurture, is accompanied by another question. Are criminals born, or are they victims of circumstance? Which one do we answer? The short answer is both, but not individually. What the lecturer is doing is probing the student to investigate the topic further and to narrow their focus. However, Ultimately, the first question is the student's dominant focus. The student will need to focus on this question, but ensure that they address the second question in their essay outline. The good news is, it is a lot more straightforward than it sounds, thank goodness. And there are just a few tips that we must be aware of before we begin. This is known as the 3 C's of thesis writing. To create a good thesis statement, your thesis statement needs to be clear, grammatically correct, it needs to be concise, less than 20 words, and it needs to be convincing. It needs to sound like it can be proven. The 3 C's will provide you with a clear direction of what it will be the central point of your entire essay. And most of all, it will help stop you from going off track and discussing ideas that are irrelevant to your main idea. So let's look at a thesis statement that does not follow the 3 C's. Aggressive behaviour in criminals is due to a lack of educational support throughout schooling, absent parents, and negative experiences in early childhood and society, which all cause a lack of interest in schooling and poor behaviour, as well as aggression later in life. So what makes this a not so good thesis statement? Well, firstly, it is not brief. It includes far too many words, 39 in total. It is also not clear. Even though it is grammatically correct to a point, it has far too many points. It has a lack of support, absent parents, negative experiences, so the reader is not sure which ones are the main ones, or what the writer is going to be focusing on. It is also not convincing, as the reader is unsure of the writer's central point. Is it a lack of educational support? Is it absent parents? Which one is it? So how can we improve this thesis statement? Well, let's look at a thesis statement that does follow the 3 C's. Aggressive behaviour in criminals is due to traumatic experiences in their formative years. So in this thesis statement, the writer has, firstly, provided a brief statement, so it's concise. It is less than 20 words, actually 13 in total. It is very clear, as the reader knows what the writer will be aiming to prove. In this case, it's traumatic experiences during the child's early childhood years that has caused them to be aggressive later in life. And it is also convincing, as the reader understands the writer's central point and is looking forward to see how the writer intends to prove their claim. So this is the reason why writing a clear, concise and convincing thesis statement is so important. However, thesis statements that are clear and concise can be unconvincing. Let's take a look at another example. Aggressive behaviour is due to bad parenting when a child is growing up. So what makes this statement not convincing? Well, it includes claims that are based on opinion and would be very difficult to prove with evidence. So the word bad is an evaluative judgment, meaning it is based on someone's opinion rather than on an objective fact. Although it is brief and clear, as there is no doubt to what the argument is going to be about, but because it appears to be based on subjective opinion, the argument will immediately discredit you in the eyes of your reader. You may think, hey, I have evidence that is going to prove some parents are bad and that they are responsible for their child's aggressive behaviour as an adult. Perhaps, but it would be very difficult to prove, and it would need to be worded in a way that didn't sound so much like bad opinion. Therefore, there is a truth to the old adage that a good thesis statement really does make essay writing easier. If you'd like to learn more on how to write your own essay and receive guidance through every step of the process, please check out my Ultimate Essay Writing Guide and Workbook. It includes a whole chapter on writing your thesis statement and will take you through every step of the process with multiple examples of quality thesis statements and essays. It also includes a whole section on critical analysis and using language that sounds objective. Please also check out my learning cards as well as the critical thinking card set that has a whole card set dedicated to helping you write effective paragraphs and your own thesis statement. Also, please check out my blog where I regularly post articles on how to write clear and convincing arguments as well as critical thinking. Please go to lifechanginglearning.com.au or find me on Facebook, Life Changing Learning, for more details to help you on your learning journey.